you who might be waiting for sound, you might have to wait just a fraction longer. Apologize for the early morning attack of the gremlins that seemed to have beset upon us and attempted to derail our morning sunrise safari. However, we are back up and running and hopefully we'll stay that way. I know that Alex and Eugene have been working tirelessly to fight off those gremlins. And for those of you who might have missed the introduction, who didn't have sound, just to let you know, we say a big thank you to all of you for your updates about the Birmingham boys calling around the Djuma waterhole, and both Seth and myself are going to be following up on those reports. I'm going to cut a little bit further west to where I saw them last night. Now, last night we mentioned that we were going to be testing out our new low light camera, and VM and I, as intrepid explorers of the night, set off to test the different settings of this new camera. It is a very high ISO camera, so built for working in low light. It is not, sorry, Game Drive channel. Just listening to updates to make sure that we don't miss anything. So it's not an infrared camera, it is a high ISO camera adapted for low light. And VM and I set off with great excitement to go and sit with the Birmingham boys, and with every intention of following them throughout the night to see what they got up to. And we sat with them for about 5 minutes as they lay completely flat, and then they got up and started very purposefully moving west. And about 2 minutes later, I lost them. And I did try really hard to keep up with them, but the block was incredibly thick. It was very difficult, and in the dark, through a drainage line, I just knew that it was a recipe for a smashed car, or even worse, for VM and myself spending the rest of the evening stuck in a donga, which is a big deep gully. And after that, I have absolutely no idea where they went. We drove round and round and round in the dark. The new camera is absolutely incredible. Here we go. I just stopped and came back for this beautiful Battalier in the morning light. I didn't actually pick up as I reversed if it was a male or a female. I suspect male. But a perfect perch to sit and watch the sunrise. little bit fluffed up against the chilly morning. And if you did miss it, we started the morning at around 11 degrees centigrade, which is 51 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'd love to tell you a little bit about how incredible it smells out here, as it always does first thing in the morning. However, I poured half a jerry can down my leg this morning in my half asleep state. So at the moment, all that I can smell is petrol wafting up from the region of my left ankle. One of the most beautiful birds of prey out here, and you can see why there's so much superstition around them. There is something almost otherworldly about that stark black highlighted with the red beak and feet. Now, I can't remember if it was yesterday or the day before now, but we had a pair of mated battaliers on a tree to the east of our position now. And this would be a different set of birds, whether it's a male or a female. So battaliers have exclusive territories that they defend with the males and the females. And they're probably in the region of about 4 square kilometers or so, and I strongly suspect that this is a different battalier to the ones that we saw before. Just taking an opportunity to listen to the Game Drive channel, and also just trying to think it through in my head what those Birmingham boys might have done last night. There's so many different options, but the nice thing is that 5 male lions should be, their tracks, if they do come out onto the road, should be fairly clear. But in my head, I'm starting to think that they must be in fairly serious need of a meal, quite a substantial one, quite soon. So I wonder if they didn't use their time in the drainage lines away from my vehicle to hunt something. Because VM and I looped around and around and around, and we just didn't find them. And as beautiful as this battalier is in the morning light, I think that it's time to go and see if we can follow up on where those lions went. I feel that as a guide, and I'm sure the others will agree with me, there's always this very, very strong sense of curiosity when you do lose an animal that you can't follow on the vehicle, and I definitely wasn't following on foot in the dark last night. But there's always a very strong sense of wondering how they managed to give you the slip and where they went to. And I need to go and figure it out. And I know that many people will be really interested in where the hyena den is, and I've checked around and about. I see hyena tracks everywhere, including on this road, and yet we still haven't managed to find it. But things will get a lot easier very, very soon, because exciting as it is, both Scott, James and Brent will be back this afternoon, as well as Nikki. So we're looking forward to having a full camp and a full contingent of presenters. I will be on leave as of tomorrow, but I'm very excited to have them all back. And with a nice tracking team out and about, it will definitely make life a little bit easier in terms of finding those hyenas. I continue on my search for these Birmingham boys and try to figure out exactly where they've decided to go. I'm sure you've been wondering what Steph has been up to with his morning, so we'll go across to him and I will catch up with you a little bit later.
Good morning everybody, and welcome to the Sunset Drive with myself, Steph Interview. We've come into this area this morning because Liam and I are really on a bit of a mission to try and find a hyena. That hyena den that we have been puzzling over for the last couple of days is either somewhere behind Gallagher Camp, or it's here, somewhere here. We came through here and immediately we went to go and have a look at an old den site, but there's no action around that den site whatsoever. No fresh tracks, no bones, no anything that's telling me there's any activity there. But here, there's always hyena tracks here, and we're hearing vocalizations coming from this particular area. We've been hearing it for the last week or so, which is sort of like my option B, if I were to say there's such a thing. We've got a game path that comes through here that we saw the tracks of two hyena on. So I think that hyena den is either here somewhere in one of these big termite mounds here, or it's through this drainage line and in this thick block over here. Not too many termite mounds. I was watching for some decent termite mounds yesterday when we were driving through here with those Birmingham boys. There's no tracks of those hyena that come out on this road at all, which is... Oh, hang on, wait. Looks like they're on this road. I'll see when we can pull off and have a look at the tracks here. So yeah, the tracks come out on this road, which is okay. So that means that the two hyena that I was tracking from the top over there have come out on this particular road, and we're just using the game path to carry on going east from here. Not too much of a problem. It's all just fitting these puzzles together in my head. There's a big water buck in front of us. Nice to see this time of the morning. Nice big guy as well. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer to him and have a look. Give us a chance to switch the car off and have a listen. So far, VM and myself have tracked a big male leopard this morning. He unfortunately crossed south. But it's nice to know that a large male leopard was on Djuma last night. And if it is Tingana, keeping himself nice and busy. Now while VM has a look at this water buck going away, I'm just checking my earpiece has finally given up the ghost, which is okay. I've been anticipating it for a while, and I have a spare, so just give me a second to just put in my spare earpiece while you're having a look at this massive male waterbuck. I'll do that. obliging us nicely by standing still. Have a look at those horns. They've got a reputation for being very aggressive, these waterbuck. Taking on people and lions, I've heard, and leopard in actual fact. Another day, I heard this report coming from a reserve near Hoedspruit that said that some wild dog were trying to catch a nyala, a female kudu, and they caught the kudu and a waterbuck bull ran in and tried to stab one of the wild dogs. Ended up spearing the kudu to death, unfortunately, with the wild dogs jumping around, and then the waterbuck ended up chasing away the wild dog, leaving the kudu lying there. I mean, you ever heard of something more bizarre? Let's go forward a little bit and see if we can see him from the front. Once again jacked in and can communicate with Tara and Jess in final control. There's a beautiful, wow, he is a magnificent bull. Really wide horns. Apparently the world record waterbuck was gathered from this area. I've seen bigger waterbuck in other parts of the Kruger, most notably around Satara. But for those of you who can take a screenshot, please do. That is a magnificent specimen of a waterbuck, and you can share it on Twitter at the hashtag Safari Live. I'm sure everyone would like to see it or have access to it. Really is a big guy. Not going to find many waterbuck bigger than him. That white ring on his rump, diagnostic, as well as his size and his shaggy coat. You just see how wide those horns are there in that shot. That is just incredible. Males will obviously use those horns to wrestle and joust with one another. The ridges on the horns helping to stop the horns from sliding past one another and inflicting injury when they're just wrestling. Obviously a determined push from either partner or either participant would cause the horns to slip past one another and cause some injury. And it's not uncommon to see waterbuck with deep holes, puncture marks in their shoulders and their necks from these jousting competitions from time to time. Nice. Alrighty, let's carry on with our day. We want to go and find out as well. We got sidetracked by a male leopard. Now we've been sidetracked by thinking about where these hyena are and following those hyena tracks. But the original mission this morning, before we got all these distractions, was for us to come and see what happened to those Birmingham boys from last night. It sounds like they were roaring within earshot of the Djuma cam at about 12 o'clock. So thank you for those updates. Also noticing how many hippo middens are around at the moment. Hippo don't have any glands that they use to mark territory with. What they do is they use their dung and I think it was a mongoose. Yeah, good spot there though. Yeah. VM is learning how to identify animals from their tracks and their signs, and he just shouted out that there was some leopard dung on the floor, but on closer inspection it was white-tailed mongoose, or the white-tailed mongoose track next to it, obliterated unfortunately by me driving past it before I stopped. Oh, bumpy road. Now talking about cats, hyenas, mongoose, and the lion and leopard interaction we've seen. Virginia has asked a question, do hyenas fight for territory similar to how lions do? Clans vie over an area? The answer to that is absolutely, and just as vicious as what lions would be. Obviously they don't have the teeth and the really do have a puncture point of view, but just the crushing force of their bite can do and does do mortal injury to combatants. Clans are constantly shifting their home ranges around as they have pressure from other clans and defending their core territories with whatever they can muster. So absolutely, there's a turf war going on, for lack of a better description, pretty much constantly between everything from hyena to lion, from lion to leopard, even amongst things like buffalo and not so much elephant herds, but buffalo, rhino, bulls do similar things with one another. And it's all just to secure enough resources so that they can get their genes into the gene pool, to have enough to eat, to have enough to drink. The sun has risen this morning bright and yellow. I think it's going to be one of those fantastic days. It's a bit chilly now at the moment, I must say. Myself and Djuma are sitting over here. We're not driving too fast. We are deliberately driving at a snail's pace. The wind, as we're busy driving, gets a little bit frosty on the fingers. As you can see, I'm battling to open here this morning. It's about as fast as I can do it. Alright, now let's carry on with our inspection of Cutline here. See if those Birmingham boys have crossed, and if so, into which property, and see if we can determine a time. I mean, if they're within earshot of the Djuma camera, it says quite a lot. It means that they may still be quite close. Watching the hut when we got back, and I happened to see the tree wisteria that Jamie found flowering. And isn't it a beautiful tree, that purple leaves, alongside the knobthorn that we found flowering from the afternoon before, that fuzzy yellow flower on the knobthorn. I went past that tree flowering, and isn't it a beautiful tree, that purple leaves, alongside the knobthorn that we found flowering from the afternoon before, that fuzzy yellow flower on the knobthorn. I I went past that tree incidentally last night. Holding off on opening up some more yesterday. So, and I hope we're going to be seeing that tree explode into flower in the next couple of days. There's a couple of ready flowers on their stalks waiting to pop open. And this morning on the bus in here, Brian and VM, no not VM, VM was on camera last night. Brian and Andrew and myself were taking bets against when we expect the first rains to arrive. Got a little raptor in the tree over here. Let's see if we can. Two of them there. Looks like a gay-bar goshawk. Let's have a look. Oh, it's two different types of raptors. It's going to be a bit tough to get an ID on both of these. Especially when one flies away like that. There's another one up there, but I think that's a hornbill. Let's just double check. No?
This is the two me and Jamie saw yesterday.
Two gay-bar goshawks.
Yeah, just by the colours.
Yeah, I'm not very good at getting raptors in flight, to be honest. It's a skill that you need to spend considerable time in learning with a book. I need them to be sitting nice and still. I really need them to be sitting nice and still and where I can see the colors on them. Some of my friends can get them on the wing with the banding across the tail and the feather patterns on the wings, but definitely not me. I need to spend some time honing that skill for sure.
And that tree and that north pole.
Okay.
I think if they sat down in that north pole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Righty. We've got one sitting in the knobthorn in front of us here, sitting on the front. Why I'm not going that much closer is A, I don't want to chase him away, and B, I think from this angle, no, don't do that. Oh well. One of those things. Back up to our search of the boundary here. Talking about raptors in a dead tree. I think this is a juvenile bateleur. I just want to confirm. Yes, we have a juvenile bateleur eagle, juvenile short-tailed eagle. Primarily a scavenging bird, but they have been known to kill snakes. They're actually classified as a snake eagle, which means that they will take snakes on occasion. They use their wings and their unfeathered legs to dispatch the snakes. And that brown coloration that you're seeing there will change to black and white coloration in their adult form. And they, or he or she, is just waiting for the thermals of the morning. Amazing that how they can turn their head almost 360, probably around about 300 degrees all the way around. So they use thermals to fly, flying as much as 200 kilometers in one day without flapping their wings even once. Getting flying, they'll flap their wings using air currents, and using thermals they will then glide from thermal patch to thermal patch. Quite close to the ground, probably about double the height, sometimes 3 times the height of the tree that they're sitting on at the moment. Very close to the ground, seeing what is lying on the ground, and then landing in trees close by to inspect lions lying on kills, or leopard lying on kills, cheetah lying on kills, wild dog lying on kills. Quite often one of the very first birds that you see around a kill, in actual fact. Vultures look at battaliers before they land for clues as to where meat is. Alrighty, let's carry on. So I'm expecting these Birmingham boys' tracks to come out on this road. They were heading in this direction last night. The last time that Jamie had audio or saw of them was heading straight towards this cut line. But you never do know. You know, we're expecting, or I'm expecting at least, that they set up their territory on Djuma, and they might just use the boundary roads or just off of the boundaries as the fringe of that. But they're always going to come back in, you know, once they've managed to push out those lines, those battle lines, for lack of a better description. Right, now junctions are always a good place to look for lion tracks. Lion quite enjoy walking on game paths. They're nice and quiet, and a road is no more to a lion than just a very big game path going from place to place. But very often the first roads that were placed in this area were placed on game paths, because that's where the most concentration of game was. So to them a road is just another big game path, which is good for us, makes it a little bit easier to see lion tracks. Leopard don't often use paths. Some leopard do, some leopard don't. For instance, Karula really dislikes walking on roads. She'll cross over roads, walk on them a little bit and cross off again. She hardly ever walks on a road or a game path. Probably just years of learning that she is harassed less by cars when she doesn't walk on roads.
Wow, that's water.
Liam shouting out tracks again. Good, getting himself prepared for hopefully some tracker evaluations later on in the year or into the first part of next year. Oh, you know, almost drove in my eagerness to look for lion tracks. Almost drove straight past an elephant. Where's the rest of your family, boy? One young male elephant all on his own. You probably find he's a straggler, that the rest of the herd is here somewhere. You know, very similar to teenage boys that loop forward and back of their parents in a shopping mall. Young bull elephants like this will quite often be out in front or left behind a herd that is busy feeding off into the bush. They're always in contact with that herd. And by contact I mean they can always hear where the rest of the herd is. They contact one another using ultra low frequency sound waves, sound that we very often can't hear. It's below our audible range. He's busy enjoying that stick immensely. Watch carefully how that stick turns. It's twisting around. The elephant's chewing off the bark of that tree, using his molars to push it and twist it, and then helping his trunk. You'll watch it come out the other side, and when he gets to those branches, he'll spit it out, peeled off of bark. See it coming out the other side, and you'd wonder to yourself, what possible nutrition could an elephant get from shaving millimeters worth of bark from sticks? You know, I've asked myself the question time and time again. Apart from just minerals and sugars and a bit of water, they're not really getting much bulk feed going. I think this time of year they just keep healthy rather than keep full. See, he's already finished that stick. I don't know why he wants to pick it up. Obviously missed a morsel or two of bark. But you'll see how effective they are of rolling those branches through their mouth and getting off that bark. It's just incredible. There you go. Spits it out. Let's see if he picks it up again or picks up another stick. I can hear more elephant. Finally, I can hear more elephants in front of us. So we found the rest of his herd. I mean, for me to hear it, they're not too far away. Let's see what he does with that stick now. Whether he breaks that stick off. Putting it in his mouth. Obviously just at an awkward angle, too awkward for him to use his tongue, and he broke it off. Can you believe it? He actually bit that thick stick off. Wow. Once again, just passing it in the one side of his mouth and rolling it through his molars and spitting it out the other side. Playing with that stick. But they need to eat. I mean, a little guy like this will probably need to eat about 200 pounds of food in a day just to stay healthy. But like I said, he's definitely not going to get that by shaving off millimeters of bark. But they spend hours eating this bark. Trace minerals and sugars. He's got that stick in his mouth again. We're looking at a young Ellie like this in the bush, and especially after we've had programs program content like we've had over the last 2 days with these Birmingham boys in the property, obviously elicits some questions and concerns about, would he be on the menu of these lion? And Miss Jin in Texas has asked, you know, being on his own, would he actually be a prey item for lion? Yes, he would, absolutely, but this particular elephant is not alone. I am hearing noises off to my left hand side of more elephants, so the rest of the herd is here. He just put that whole tree in his mouth and then bitten it off. Incredible. So absolutely, an elephant of this size would definitely be able to, would definitely fall prey to lion, especially 5 boys like those Birmingham boys. If he was on his own, or they could separate him out from the herd somehow, they definitely would try and take him down. Elephants are not the easiest prey though. They're clever, they are dangerous, they're incredibly strong, and quite often they're surrounded by other elephants, which makes them a target that even lion won't readily consider, especially if the rest of the herd is in attendance like this. What are you doing? You've just broken off a branch there, boy, and now you want to break off another one. Finish what you've got first. Out here in Africa, only man outranks elephant at their ability to transform an environment. Is he using his trunk and his tusk? There we go. Isn't that amazing? And elephant are what we call a keystone species. They are key to the survival of very many species out here. And one of the things that they do is provide a balance for Mother Nature's growing, if I could say. Left unchecked in an area, plants will choke each other out, and you wouldn't be able to have gaps through the trees. Unfortunately, the opposite side of that is also true. Elephant numbers that cannot migrate, or elephant that are confined into a space, will transform an environment so badly that they'll actually turn it into a bit of a wasteland, into a grassland really. Areas like the Chobe River near Kasane have been changed completely from what they were in the past. All because elephants are just doing what elephants do, but without the ability to actually move and migrate, which is what they do naturally. In other words, it being in a closed environment, it seriously, the debate rages on about what impact they're having. Elephant numbers haven't been normal in Africa for the last, since I suppose the Egyptians were trading in ivory many thousands of years ago. Excuse me, blowing my nose. I've got, for some reason, an allergic reaction to something this morning. While we're watching this elephant demolish whatever it is he's eating. Systematically just taking that tree or whatever it is. Maybe a root. Looks like a branch of a tree, but it could also be a root that he's managed to pick up. And on that topic, Marianne in Boston has asked, on the migration topic, Marianne in Boston has asked, can the elephant move out of Djuma? Absolutely, Marianne. We've got Djuma itself is an open reserve to other reserves in the Sabi Sands. The Sabi Sands is open reserve to other reserves north and south of it. North of us we've got the Manyeleti, which is open then in turn to the Timbavati, which is open then in turn to the Klesiri. And the Sabi Sands itself is also open to the Kruger National Park. So including the Transfrontier parks into Mozambique, this particular area comprises about 35,000 square hectare. 3.5 million square hectare, about 35,000 square kilometers. An absolutely enormous area, and more than enough for elephants to live in. Elephant numbers in the Kruger National Park have seemed to be stabilizing out at about 13,000 elephant. Scientists are saying though that for them not to change their environment, the carrying capacity of the park is around about 9,000 elephant. And therein rages the debate, do we translocate elephants into the Mozambique Transfrontier Park? They seem to be inhabiting the Mozambican park at about 10 kilometers per year. So the park's been open for a while into Mozambique, and elephants are slowly starting to move through, and they're ever expanding that park. I mean, it's not going to be very long and we're going to be able to see elephants on the beaches again in Mozambique, with game corridors from the Kruger to Gamr Reserve, from Gamr Reserve into other reserves in Zimbabwe and Botswana. He's putting his effort in this morning. Look at that massive stick that he's carrying around over there. Nice picture from VM. Something unusual to what we usually see. And Sherry has just made a comment, no wonder these elephants will wear their teeth down. And for those of you who didn't know what Sherry was talking about, elephant gets 6 sets of molars in their life. And when the last set of molars is worn down and worn out, they lose the ability to chew the food down to a level that their body can, or their digestive process can gain enough nutrition from. And they slowly starve themselves to death, eventually succumbing to sheer exhaustion or some nutritional related disease or just starvation. So it eventually gets an elephant down. Here he comes with his stick. Carrying himself some lunch. Looks like he's going to be moving past us. Get into the shade over here so we can watch him come through. See that head up, ears out display. It's just a young elephant testing the boundaries, knowing that he's bigger than anything else out here. Chewing his nails basically, as you can see. Got his trunk in his mouth. It's just a sign of indecision. Some displacement behavior there with his trunk sniffing at the stump. Just letting us know he's an elephant. Hello, boy. Okay, Jamie. Okay, copy that. That was just me speaking on the radio with Jamie. coordinating our tracking efforts of these Birmingham boys. And I also think that heralds the time that we move on. Let's leave this little guy to his breakfast. We can always come back and find the rest of the herd. The sun is at this bizarre angle today, and it's giving VM some difficulty seeing into his viewfinder and managing all the settings on the camera, which gave you that quite lovely and atypical elephant sighting there, where it looked a little bit blown out on the screen. Now I'm just still driving slow. A, it's still quite cold and my fingers are still getting used to the temperature, and B, I want to make absolutely sure that these lion have not crossed. We've got 2 or 3 vehicles in the area that are busy looking for these lion, and it would seem that they've either decided to jump across the road this morning and not leave any tracks, or they're still in this block somewhere, which they might very well be. They might be lying on a kill somewhere, but we need to find out. They were hungry yesterday, and coming across something last night, I have no doubt that they'll try and hunt it if they could. But what we actually want to do this time is just make sure that they haven't crossed out of our boundary before we go and start tracking them from their last position last night. In that block, it's going to be a difficult thing to do. Quite time consuming, I would imagine. Right, well, myself and VM take this very boring straight road into the distance looking for some tracks. I think it would be a good idea if we link through to Jamie and she can give you an update on what she's been up to for the morning. So we'll catch up with you in a little bit, and hopefully with some news about where these Birminghams have gone.
Welcome back, and I've seen my first animal since you left us. We've got quite a sweet little family of Inyala here. Is a male and a female, and a youngster, looks like a young female. At that age she'd already be starting to grow horns if it was a male, so it's a little female. And there's the adult female having a look at us. Now I'm not sure how the Birmingham boys grew wings and flew, but there's about 4 different guides working around this area, and not one of us have picked up on any tracks on any roads. So my assumption, and it is an assumption, is that they are still in that drainage line where I lost them. Just going to shift forward so that we can have another view of these Inyala. They're about to go down into the drainage line. Unless the Birmingham boys have underground tunnels, I'm not quite sure how they managed their cunning escape from us all. They're going to move forward as well. I think our Inyala family are going to disappear. Very sweet little lamb. And I've had quite a few possibly pedantic debates as to what you call a baby Inyala. And for those regular viewers, you'll know that Inyala is where the linguistic split happens between calling antelopes cows and bulls and calling them rams and ewes. And anything that is the size of an Inyala bull or larger is referred to as a bull or a cow. So there we have our impressive Inyala bull with his white tipped horns. And anything the size of a Inyala ewe or smaller is called or referred to as a ram and a ewe. But nobody is quite sure what a baby Inyala is called. Probably if it's a female, it's called a lamb, and if it's a male baby, it is called a calf. And what I have noticed is that although Inyala are not territorial in any way, they don't defend areas, they will defend and fight fiercely for female ewes that are in estrus, but beyond that, they don't have territories, but they do definitely have home ranges, because I'm sure I've seen this collection of Inyala before. And it's very, very seldom that Inyala bulls actually come to blows over a female. I've only seen it once or twice in my life. Most of the time what we see is their elaborate dance display, where they puff up all the hair along their back and along their tails, and they present themselves side on to the challenger to make themselves look big and strong. And then they do a very, very slow, fairly hilarious dance around each other in circles. And the one time I did see a very enthusiastic Inyala clash of horns was between three large bulls about this size who were fighting over a female that was clearly in estrus, and it was right in the middle of our garden at camp where I was living before this. And the bulls were so busy occupied with fighting each other off. There was a little bull, still with sort of horns about half that size, hiding around the side of the house, peeking out. And as soon as he noticed the bulls were occupied, he snuck around the side of the house and promptly mated with the ewe in estrus while they were busy fighting each other. I was very impressed with his technique. It worked out well for him. And he got the action he wanted, which goes to show sometimes it isn't always about brute strength and your physical abilities. Sometimes it's a battle of wits as well out here. And right now I feel as though the Birmingham boys have won that battle of wits against me. I've also learned an important lesson about what that block looks like away from the road. Definitely quite to off-road is very, very thick. And unfortunately our little Inyala family have moved into this drainage line as well. And we shall continue our search. Maybe, just maybe, the Birmingham boys changed direction and moved south through this drainage line. So I'm going to keep looking. And we saw that magnificent Inyala bull with those white-tipped horns and those what's known as ivory tips, although it's not ivory in any way, but those ivory tips are a sign of his maturity and his age. It puts him at about 4 years older, and I would say with that amount of white tips at the tops, you're probably looking at about 6 years old. And you can age the different antelope by their horns. And I know that Billy Joe, welcome to the Sunrise Safari, you wanted to know if you could age waterbuck by their horns, and you can to an extent. They will grow throughout their lives. There's a lion. You're joking. You must be joking.
log that looks like a lion.
No, I'm sure I just saw a tail swish. Let's loop around. Where did you see it? In there? Let's loop around and let's actually go in here. Get it to load here. Come on, lions. Be there. Help us out here. Oh, hole. Found a hole. We're going to be okay with Ryan. Just have a look. Which direction am I looking in? Somewhere in here, or?
Oh, right. Yeah, it's right here.
Let's just have a listen for a moment. Was it down in the drainage line? Let me just pop my nose over. Don't fear, I will be close to the car. I'm not too worried about them. Ooh. Was it on this side of the drainage line? Nothing's growled at me, which I would have expected at this proximity. Definitely have taken a more elegant route through there. I'm not sure if we might have been tricked by a log. I did see a very lion-shaped log over there. But let's keep looping. Let's see. Might have been, was it lying down? Was your log lying down?
Yeah.
I think we might have been tricked by a lion log.
A very convincing log
A
lion.
very convincing log lion. I don't know, it would have growled at me by now. Definitely would have growled at me by now. Yeah, let's just keep looking. never ever know. And I did suspect they were in a drainage line. It's amazing how when you're really, really looking for an animal, your brain finds it for you. But the one thing I will say is that usually when you react as quickly as Brian did, in the way that he did, that's usually a good sign. We're not going to give up just yet. I'm going to go back to where we saw the lion log and just get our bearings again. And don't worry, Cucino John, I've very much learned my lesson about driving over aardvark holes. I promise you that was a thought that was very, very much at the forefront of my mind last night when I was driving in the dark off-road. It was definitely something that occurred to me. Typically male lions, which is the ones that we're looking for, when you are on foot, they tend to be the biggest wusses. They growl at you and then run away, which makes me wonder, I think I would have heard from them by now. Let's go back along the road, see where it was. But I think we might have been fooled, Brian. I think we might have been fooled. Definitely don't see any lions here. I think we might have been tricked. Oh well, we shall continue on with our search. And Astralina was wondering if that was a wise move on my part, getting off the vehicle with the lions possibly very close, especially because, and you are absolutely correct, they respond very differently to the human shape on foot. And in that particular situation I felt completely secure in the knowledge that the vehicle was very, very close. I had lots of cover to make my approach. And also lions are actually quite kind in their approach to people on foot, although you should never ever take that for granted. But they let you know, they have a very distinct warning zone where all they're going to do is growl at you if you proceed to push them, or if you bump them and surprise them. Then they might give you what is occasionally termed in books as a mock charge, but I definitely wouldn't call it a mock charge. It's a warning charge to let you know that you are far too close. Now in that case I wasn't aiming in any way to disturb the lions, I just wanted to have a double check before I went bashing through the block on the vehicle. And Brian, eagle-eyed Brian, has spotted a little pearl-spotted owlet. That is too sweet. Very, very cool. And they always look quite cross and grumpy, but those little specks along the breast are what gives it away as a pearl-spotted owl, and it's quite common to see them at this time of the day because they are crepuscular, so they are most active in the evenings or late afternoons and then the early mornings. Very, very sweet. I've just heard one calling. I want to see if this little one calls in response. And while we wait, you can see he's in disgust turned his head right around away from us. And Maggie M was wondering how it is that the various birds of prey do this without tearing any blood vessels or muscles in their neck. And that is one of the adaptations of birds that are absolutely mind-blowing. They're really, really cool. And they just have the blood vessels are just a little bit longer, and the muscle systems are a little bit more flexible to allow them that greater range of mobility. And I did once find a dead owl that had died of natural causes. I'm not quite sure what had happened to it, but I had a look at it, and that neck is, although it looks puffy and solid, it's unbelievably thin and fragile feeling. So they really are a miracle of biological engineering. Let's see if we can, I'm going to try and sneak a little bit closer, because I'd love to show you my favorite thing about pearl-spotted owls, and that is their incredibly grumpy facial expression. They are hugely entertaining in that way. Here we go. Looking at us with absolute disapproval. I'm just going to, while we have a look at him, looking at us, and hopefully waiting for him to call, I'm just going to find a couple of the little owls in my bird book to show you the various differences between them. Nope, not interested. Could not care less. I'm just having a look close up at him. Starting to wonder if it's not a barred owlet. Now seeing him from this particular angle, he does have a slightly dark chest. And I'm sorry, I think I did make a mistake. This is an African barred owlet, not a pearl-spotted owlet. Should also explain why he completely ignored my whistled call. Very, very sweet, and I'll show you why I made that mistake. It's my bird book. So this is the little owl that we are looking at here, the African barred owlet. There you can see that slightly darker chest region with the white and the barring. And what I originally thought it was a little pearl spotted owlet, which is this one here. So you can see very similar looking birds. The difference is that the pearl spotted owlet has white all the way up to under its face there. It doesn't have that dark color. So although they both have the speckles on the chest, there is a subtle difference there. And the barred owlet is just a little bit bigger, fractionally bigger, than the pearl spotted owlet. There, if we look at him now, you can see he's not white all the way up to underneath his chin. His or her. Impossible to tell. The barring up at the top of the chest is much darker. So, a little African barred owlet. Very sweet. And he's turned his head away. Not interested in looking at us anymore. Oh, there we go. Okay, time for us to leave him to his daytime rest. I imagine that little owlet probably isn't going to stay as exposed as he is right now. It's just getting to the point where he's probably going to seek a little bit of extra cover, maybe in some of these leadwoods or in the jackalberry trees, which are a bit denser, and provide a little bit more security as he spends the night sleeping, or sorry, not the night, the day sleeping